Hey everybody, Mike Slifer here in the First Alert Forecast Center, and we are coming at you with another First Alert Weather Extra. Apologies for for hopping on a little late here. Was just actually going through some interesting data, and we're going to start off with a look at the month so far. 26.5 degrees. The average temperature so far this December, that is down a whopping 8.4 degrees compared to where we typically would be this far into the month. So, in other words, it has been cold. But here's the thing, and here's what actually distracted me and caused me to miss 9:30 on the dot. That's why it's 9:31 right now. Even if the month were to end today, we still would not even be in the top 10 coldest Decembers on record for the Hartford area. Records go back to 1905. And as a matter of fact, we'd have to be almost a full 2 degrees lower to get on that list. So we'll see how the rest of the month treats us, especially because it looks like there will be some more cold air that tries to sneak in perhaps by the end of the month, but more on that in just a moment. Let's talk a little bit about the temperature out there this morning. Single digits and teens. It was cold. It was a very cold start to the day. It felt even colder than this when you factored in the wind. And right now we see quite a few towns down back into the teens, 15 to 20 or so inland, a little bit milder in some of the, in say the 91 corridor, Hartford to Windsor Locks and along the shoreline. 30 in New Haven right now, 24 in Groton. So plenty cold. The wind is much calmer, and this is good because there's less of a wind chill factor. So looking ahead, our wind chill values are expected to fall perhaps a little bit more and then hold steady, perhaps even rise a little bit. So less of an issue moving forward. Our First Alert Weather Day does continue until, let's say, about midnight tonight. By dawn tomorrow, it's just going to be a cold morning, not the bitter type of cold that we had where today, when you stepped out the door, it felt like it was in the single digits or even below zero. On the other front, with all this cold air in place, no showers to track. First Alert Live Radar is Connecticut's only live radar, and it is scanning clear and dry. Certainly some wintry landscapes across Connecticut. Here's a live look on our iCam in Old Saybrook right now as we look off to the north. Everything is snowy still, which is not a surprise. We did not make it to freezing today. In fact, town has only made it into the 20s for high temperatures. But anything untreated, certainly freezing back up tonight. Here's a live look on our iCam in Hartford, 24 degrees. We can see Pulaski Circle, and we can see the ice skating rink at Bushnell Park. Calm in our capital city right now, and again, looking wintry, everything covered in snow. How about a snow-covered green in New Haven, 30 degrees, wind out of the southwest at 7 miles per hour. And we'll finish off with a live look on our iCam in Torrington, which also looks quite festive. Look at all the lights up as we look over downtown Torrington here. So pretty quiet weather out there tonight. We are keeping an eye to our west. A partly cloudy sky overhead. And at one point we were concerned about some isolated flurries. Seems less likely that those will actually make it here. Even if they do, no impact expected. The bigger story tonight is certainly going to be the temperatures, which do stay in the teens for most of the state. We're talking 11 to 16 inland, 19, 20, 21 along the shoreline, depending on exactly where you are. So with this cold that is sort of entrenched heading into the start of the day tomorrow, we are certainly recommending all the layers again, hats, gloves, and winter coats as you step out the door and start off your Tuesday. When you send your kids to the bus stop tomorrow morning, they also have to be dressed just like this. It is cold out there, but we do have some relief on the way. Even tomorrow afternoon, we're expecting temperatures to peak between 30 and 35 degrees. That may not sound like a lot, but it's about 10 degrees higher than we were today, and no wind. With a calmer wind, some sunshine, temperatures in the 30s, it'll actually feel all right out there. But if that's not warm enough for you, let's look ahead to Wednesday, shall we? Turning milder, temps in the mid-40s. Thursday, mid and upper 40s, but less sunshine. Clouds will be a bit thicker, especially later in the day on Thursday. It's breezy out there, and then showers will be possible late, but it's Friday when we see the greatest risk for rain. In fact, Friday is our next First Alert Weather Day. And perhaps you clicked on this because you saw rain and wind Friday. That's a First Alert Weather Day. That was the push alert that came out. Here's the meat and potatoes, if you will, of what we're expecting Friday. We have high pressure offshore. As it moves away, it will shift our wind to be out of the south. We are dry during the daylight hours on Thursday, and in fact, we might be dry even into the late evening hours Thursday. But overnight Thursday, our chance for rain increases. Not only that, but note how close the high and the low are to each other. In between, we call that the pressure gradient, the difference between the strength of the pressure. The lower the low, the stronger the high, the bigger the difference is. The greater the difference, the stronger the wind. So the wind is going to pick up on Friday in tandem with the rain chances rising. Some of the heaviest rain could be falling during the morning commute on Friday. That's roughly when the front will cross Connecticut. So this is going to bring certainly a period of heavier rain, steady rain certainly too, which will impact travel. Maybe a bit of a hydroplaning risk, a bit of a ponding risk, and certainly lower visibility on the roadways. Now, this front starts to move out, so you may think that we're done as we get into the afternoon and evening, but that's not the case. Behind this, we will see the wind pick right back up. So we're talking wind gusts out there on Friday, 40 to 50 miles per hour in the morning, and then again in the afternoon. Maybe a bit of a lull late morning, but really, we're going to see the wind be a big part of the story on Friday, and it's going to depend on it's really going to depend on the wind direction. So in the morning, it's out of the south. In the afternoon, it's out of the northwest. And honestly, that change in wind direction throughout the day, too, could help to loosen some things up that get blown out as the wind shifts direction later in the day. Not only that, but rain will be heavy at times. We're looking at maybe an inch across the state. Guidance in pretty good agreement that will be around an inch, give or take a little bit. Certainly not enough really to cause much of a flooding concern, despite the fact that we do have a snowpack on the ground right now. We're going to put a big dent in the snowpack over the next couple of days, and it will get washed away with that rain on Friday. And look at these temperatures Friday. We're going to have to touch base on those in just a moment. But we're back up into the 50s Friday, 30s Saturday, 40s Sunday, into the 30s again by Monday next week. Friday, certainly the outlier here. Temperatures along the shoreline could even be in the mid-50s. So if the cold's not your thing, you've been hoping for things to be a little bit milder. Wednesday and Thursday really don't look too bad. There's that chance for showers later Thursday. And then we are just going to be straight up warm on Friday. So warm, in fact, that we could challenge records. The record high temperature for the Hartford area is 54 degrees. For Bridgeport, it's 57. Now, here's something that's interesting. Given the mild winters that we've had as of late, we have seen a lot of the, we'll say, low-hanging fruit for these high temperatures fall. A record of 54 is the lowest record high temperature. We have two left for record highs for the Hartford area under 55. December 19th and February 2nd, both of which the record high temperature, both days, I should say, the record high temperature is 54 degrees. So what does this mean? It's a lot of numbers. The takeaway here is that we have set quite a few records, especially in the colder months over the last several years. December 19th and February 2nd have been sort of longer standing records that we have not been able to break. Of course, the chance at any one day being warmer enough to challenge a record is kind of random. It very much so depends on the pattern. We've been stuck in a colder pattern lately, and it looks like it could break in time to potentially challenge what is a, relatively speaking, lower hanging fruit record. So the takeaway here is that it'll just be interesting to see if it happens. And either way, we are going to be close. Otherwise, records for the rest of the month are in the mid and upper 50s. All 55 or higher. Actually, I think 56 or higher. So, needless to say, it's just an interesting little stat, something to keep an eye on. And speaking of stats, while we're talking numbers, let's talk about the snowfall we have seen so far this season. 4.1 inches for the Hartford area, 4.5 inches in Bridgeport. So Bridgeport is officially on the map with measurable snow this season. We do have a bit of a deficit season to date for the Hartford area by a couple inches. We're running a surplus of 1.5 inches in Bridgeport. Not really all that impressive considering, we still have a lot of winter to go and a lot of time for these numbers to settle out. Very different from where they are right now, very differently from where they are right now. But either way, interesting to see the numbers on paper here. For the time being, Bridgeport does officially have more snow than the Hartford area. It seems unlikely that will last, just given the fact that typically we deal with mixing problems for some of those stronger storms along the shoreline. That storm system Saturday night and Sunday really just took the perfect track to get some decent snow. Not quite as light and fluffy along the shoreline as we had hoped, but for most of the state, it was a fairly light snow, and certainly not a blockbuster snow event, just a few inches to make everything look very festive and keep everything a bit slick. And now the cold air is upon us, and something that has been notable shift, if you will, in some of the longer range guidance. So this brings us from the 22nd through the 28th of December. We're starting to see what was a very warm signal at one point shifting northeast. It's receding now, back south and west. So maybe less of a chance the temperatures will be milder than normal here as we get closer to the end of December specifically. Really, this is a pretty mild 7-day forecast, though. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, all forecast to be above normal. And even Monday next week, 38 degrees. That's about where we would typically be, maybe a couple degrees below or a degree below. But the takeaway is the same. Things are certainly trending to be a little bit milder than normal, at least for this week. Perhaps things will flip back as we get into the final few days of the month and closer to the start of January. But stay tuned for that because we'll be the first to alert you if we see anything significant. The big takeaway for right now is going to be the strong wind gust potential on Friday, along with all of that rain. So a first alert weather day Friday, and in the meantime, let's enjoy a bit of a tranquil stretch over the next few days. That's it for our first alert weather extra. We'll be over on the wax at 10 and channel 3 tonight at 11 with another check of your first alert forecast. Have a great night and thanks for joining us.